All right, and we should be live. I'm just going to wait and make sure that we pop up and I'm not doubling the audio by having the stream up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and let me pull it up on the YouTube so I can respond to comments on the phone. There we are. All
Yeah, it
right.
says we're live.
Cool. Yep, looks like we're there. Let me just get her pulled up here, and I'll do a proper intro. There we go. I'm so professional, Lee. I need to have a whole...
Oh, me too.
Freaking... I need to actually have an intro and all that stuff, like, people that actually do this and make money from it.
It took us, when I on our Hit the Bricks, it took us like, I think 7 or 8 episodes until I finally did an intro. So don't feel so bad.
Okay, sweet. I mean, I'm only like 11 years into this now.
Yeah.
But,
It looks really professional, though.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I had fun making that Snyderverse logo.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm surprised no one's done that yet. So I'll just whip it up real quick. But yeah, all right, here we go. So, hey, everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird, and I am fortunate enough to be joined today by a special guest who many of you, if not all of you, may know. It is Lee of Drumdums. Welcome, sir.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me, Cecil. I always have a good time when I'm on your channel.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, or when you're on my channel. It's fun.
Either way. Guessing on Hit the Bricks was a good time, I gotta say. But yeah, so the reason this stream is in existence, you guys, is really because of Lee. And,
yeah, because of me.
Yeah,
my stupid mouth. I had to freaking hit send on X like an idiot, but hey, here we are.
I still call it Twitter. I like that you paused there to make sure you call
Twitter.
it Twitter.
I always pause and I'm like, should I call it Twitter or X? I don't. Maybe we should make up a new name. We'll all like a code name.
Yeah, it's something we can all agree on.
Twitter. I don't know.
Yes, Twitterx or something like that. It's just like a Twix bar, but longer. All right, so guys, what we are here to discuss is, as the big old thumbnail and as it says right above us here, we are here to discuss, should the Snyderverse return? And the reason is because Lee just, what was it, yesterday, Lee, even, or was it the day before?
It was yesterday or the day before. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was the day before. I don't know, because I post way too much on Twitter, so I get myself in trouble a lot. I do.
Well, hey, I get it.
I piss some people off,
dude. I trust me. If I click send on a lot of the things I wanted to click send on, I would too.
Oh yeah.
I've learned to just write it out and then wait a couple seconds and then decide whether I want to actually send. And most times I'll just delete it. But
people get so mad on there, man. Like Badlands was the latest topic, and it's like people, whether you like the movie or not, it's like people want something to fail so bad because it's probably Disney or something like that. And yeah, it's not the greatest freaking movie on the planet, but I swear it seems like some people, it's their mission to bring a movie down. They don't want to celebrate. I celebrate any movie that's successful. Even if I don't like the movie, hey, great, you made a movie that's successful. That's awesome. That's what normal people should do. But
agreed, 100%. And I try and carry that balance when I do our reviews here on the channel, because not just because I'm trying to make movies myself, but just frankly because I want to be fair. Even if I'm being harsh on a movie, I'm like, of course, as we always say, go, and if the premise sounds interesting, go and support the movie and make up your own minds. My recommendation would be wait for streaming, but you don't have to listen to my recommendation. Please, by all means, if you want to make up your own minds in the theater, by all means do so. I never want to take business away from a film. I am just simply going to be honest with my thoughts about a film. Unfortunately, that in and of itself became a contentious thing when Kristopher came out and said that he was no longer going to do that, basically, and said he was going to focus on,
like he dropped a hand grenade in the freaking YouTube
dude.
space.
It's a whole other group of vitriolic fans that went crazy based on that movie. I got a few comments that were nuts just because I was we had 3 people review it. I liked it. 2 of us kind of didn't. They thought it was just okay, and I caught shit and was called a shill, a paid shill and stuff, and just a Stuckman lover. And I'm like, dude, I've always been a Johns fan more than a Stuckman fan. Usually it's Johns versus Stuckman, like Beatles and Elvis, but But yeah, so I was always on the John's camp, but like, and I didn't expect to like this that much, but I really enjoyed it. And because of that, I was automatically paid and just trying to butter up
Of
Stuckman,
course.
hoping he could help my career.
Well, the thing is, like, I gave it a rotten, but it was close. Like, I literally had to stop and think. And I want to be honest, no matter who the movie's by, and setting aside that, oh my God, I admire the guy so much. I've always been a fan of Chris Stuckman and couldn't be happier that whether I or you like the movie or not, he made a freaking movie that looks pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
And for a first movie, I'd be pretty proud if that was my first, like pretty much studio type movie. But yeah, I still have my integrity. And of course, it's a first watch. Okay. That's the bad thing about Rotten Tomatoes too. If you're a critic, and you can go in there and change your rating in Rotten Tomatoes if you want. And I guess I've never thought about that, but maybe my second watch of Shelby Oaks, maybe I come around to it and like, you know what? Maybe it's barely a passing now. So
I would be surprised if you, of all people, would change your opinion on a film.
Right? I'm not known to do that. I always tell people I'll admit I'm an emotional movie watcher. The theater is my church. I start getting excited a couple of days before I go, if I know that I'm going to the theater to see something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to see Wicked tomorrow night. I'm not the biggest like Wicked fan, but I'm excited. I love going to the theater. And sometimes those can play into my emotions when I'm watching a movie.
Sure.
And it can change from time to time. It usually doesn't change too much, but if it's a movie that I'm like, oh my God, I get like Superman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like over the moon. And there's a chance that I might, my opinion might be overblown the first time I watched Superman, which it was for this new Superman.
Yeah, apparently so, based on your tweet. Because I was I don't remember you not liking it, but so that we'll get to all that. So yeah, the reason we want to discuss this is because it's still out there as a topic in the zeitgeist, right? There's still a number of people that want to, ride or die for Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you're that person. You're one of the level-headed fans of the Snyderverse, but I mean, your opinions are still wrong, but level-headed, yes. But yeah, no. So I thought it would be a good discussion. Oh, I need to make sure you're bigger than that because it shrank you in my window. Sorry, that was it was a behind-the-scenes production note on my own end. But yes, so you were a fan of at least the Superman movies. I don't know. Let's start there, actually, I think, leading into the rest of this discussion. So what aspects of the Snyderverse were you a fan of? Which movies? Was it just the Superman tied movies, or was it, the Wonder Woman and the, all the other things within the Aquamans, the Shazams, all of that stuff? Or like, where did you fall on the Snyderverse as a whole? Because technically, when we say Snyderverse, that's what we're talking about, right?
Superman is the anchor for me. I've always been a massive, massive, massive Superman fan. And I think Superman fans, we all have our own journey. And I think it kind of started with the Christopher Reeve Supermans, and we all enjoyed those. I think collectively everybody enjoyed Supermans. Christopher Reeve Superman. But I think starting with Superman Returns, and then you got Man of Steel, which was I think they took a sharp turn from Returns to Man of Steel. Now, my thing, and again, we all have our own Superman story. You have you're deeply rooted in the comics. You've read so many of I've never read a Superman comic.
Man, I need to send you something.
I know I need to, but I've never been a comic guy, but I've always been a movie guy, and I've always been attracted to superhero movies, good ones. The Dark Knight, I think that's a good place to start, because The Dark Knight, even though it's not a Superman movie, that immediately went to like my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I was just hooked. It felt different, even different than Batman Begins. And I think I just really was attracted to the darkness of that movie, the dark nature of it, Christopher Nolan's storytelling, the Joker. If you look at like Nicholson's Joker, who is great. I freaking love Nicholson's Joker. it's a different flavor. There's he's dangerous, but there's a fun vibe to him. With I like they went with a more grounded, realistic approach with Heath Ledger, and so I think I was really excited about dark superhero stories. The Crow is another one that's one of my all-time favorite movies,
phenomenal.
and I love how dark it is. So maybe I'm attracted to darker themed superhero movies. I do think some of the MCU movies find a good balance there.
Mm-hmm.
So Zack Snyder's, I just fell in love with taking, I guess, grounding Superman, even though he is Superman, not making it more of a quippy, jokey type Superman, like they had elements of that, I think, in the Christopher Reeve Supermans. But to sum it all up, I just like the dark nature of it and being really serious with it. I think it can be a little bit overly dramatic at times, for sure. But setting aside the darkness, the emotional anchor was there for me. I got really invested in the story. I got really invested in Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. I love him as Superman. And I know one of the big things with the end of Man of Steel is them completely destroying Metropolis. And I think Henry Cavill for me kind of sold like oh my God, like this is out of my hands because this is a younger Superman, right? And I think Superman failed in Man of Steel big time. And when you're a character with that much power, Ben Affleck's Batman was right. His worry about this version of Superman, and even if he is a good guy, we have to take this seriously that he might not be that responsible with his power. And he was right, because look what happened to Metropolis. His knee-jerk reaction was, I don't care if he's good or bad. We have to stop him because he's dangerous. And I think that's what I like about this version of Superman. And I like that Zack Snyder trilogy. I'm not a DCEU nut. I think a lot of those movies don't land for me. I'm not really a fan of the Shazam movies.
Okay.
Aquaman, I can kind of take it or leave it. Even Wonder Woman, the first one's okay. I don't really care for 84 at all. Mm-hmm. So I think when I talk about Snyder's trilogy, I think often people will automatically think, oh, I'm a DCEU guy. I'm not really. I'm a Snyder guy. That whole Snyder cult thing, though, I think kind of muddied the waters in terms of fandom, because then you have guys like me who aren't really looking to to shit on other people's preferred version of the character. I don't like doing that. I don't judge anybody for liking what they like. I think the Snyder cult is a problem. I have seen some of their posts. They do get pretty violent and vitriol and I guess immature. And so I think they gave a bad name to us just regular Superman fans, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it. What about you?
Yeah, so I think that Zack Snyder's always been good at a few things, which is action and grand epic sort of storytelling. Yeah. One thing he's not always been good at is story itself and character development and character portrayal. And long story short, right out of the gate, the only way I could sort of excuse Man of Steel was to immediately make it in my own mind an Elseworlds story, right? Because it is to me just not Superman. And my thoughts of Superman were not shaped by the Christopher Reeve Superman. It was shaped by the comics, like you mentioned. I've been reading the comics since he died in the end of 1992. I've been reading it weekly. Literally, I've never missed a Superman comic since the end of 1992 up to this day. And
that's cool.
And so I am very steeped in the modern day Superman mythology. And I went back to the 1986 Man of Steel relaunch by Byrne and Jurgens and all that stuff. And so that's essentially what's known as the post-crisis modern day Superman. And that's what I've fallen in love with. And Snyder's Superman just wasn't that. Like, he got the power right, but not even Superman would allow himself to be portrayed as a Christ-like figure if he had his druthers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that in and of itself says to me that there's a fundamental misrepresentation of the character here. Like, and I don't know if Snyder's trying to say we treat him like he's Jesus, but when you're portraying him like he's Jesus, with him literally with his arms out, and, you know, everyone in the crowd trying to touch him like he's feeding, you know, the hungry and stuff, you're doing that. You're portraying him as that. And I feel like that's doing the character a disservice. It's putting him on a level that he would never want himself put on.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the thing that you said, I have a number of issues with the characterization of Cal in the Man of Steel, and thus the film's following. Everyone has their thoughts on the tornado dad scene. I think there's absolutely no way in any universe that Clark would let his dad die. You know, there was 7 people under that bridge. The one thing Clark was taught by his parents is, above all else, life matters.
Right.
And there's no way he would not only let a life, but his own father's life end just to keep his secret in front of these 7 people under this overpass. Like, it just wouldn't happen. That's a fundamental misrepresentation of the character. I think the city destruction, while it's more excusable due to him being new, I think my Superman, the Superman from the comics, would have accidentally maybe leveled one building or knocked a section out of one building, and then realized, oh fuck, I can't do that anymore. And then he, you know, anytime he's fighting in the comics, anytime Superman's fighting, he is keenly aware of where he is spatially. He will put himself, if he's going to fight, he will put himself in a position that if he does get wailed on and knocked back, he will not fly through a dozen buildings on his way. You know, he's spatially aware when he's fighting as a result of that. Now, again, this might have been something that's come over the 40 years of comics that I've read. You know, experience wise, you know, maybe he wasn't always that, but to me, he always has been that. So, and then the biggest issue to me was one that's not talked about that often, is the fact that his and Lois's first kiss literally takes place atop the ruins of Metropolis, and likely thousands of pulped civilians underneath their feet. That is not, Superman would not, romantic kiss would not even cross his mind at a moment like that, let alone in a location like that. Like, there's just no way in hell. So too many fundamental misunderstandings and misrepresentations of the character as a whole, and then just the storytelling decisions to go with the death of Superman in movie number 2. Like, it's such a mistake of an idea, in my opinion. And so I just feel like it developed this world out of a fundamental misunderstanding of the character. I, like you, I liked Wonder Woman 1. I was a big fan of Shazam 1 because I liked the lighter tone, because that felt the most like an actual DC Comics movie of anything that had come out at that point. Ben Affleck's Batman was good, but he was the most like kill happy Batman I've ever seen put to screen, and that's just not Batman either. So again, it's a fundamental misunderstanding and misrepresentation of a character. There is an entire contingent of people that believe that Batman should kill, and they believe that he's dumb for not having killed, and that every life that any of his rogues have taken after their first time in prison is on Batman, because he should have just killed them. Like, there's an entire contingent of people that believe that. I do not. Like, he's fundamentally someone, like, at Batman's core, he's inwardly what Superman is outwardly. He wants to believe in the redemption of people, the redemption of evil, because he just doesn't want to believe that the thing that killed his parents is so prevalent that there's just no coming back from it, you know? And the fundamental hope of what superheroes are supposed to embody, even in dark representations of it, i.e. Batman in the comics, it just bothered me on a lot of different levels. But that's why I think these discussions are healthy to have. We can see each other's viewpoints on it and get everyone in the comments viewpoint as well. But what I want to just get to the heart of, because again, I know you have limited time and I want to make sure I get to these questions. Why do you think the Snyderverse should return at this point? Considering everything, considering we just got James Gunn's Superman, which some people say was a success. Some people vehemently, try and say that it was a failure, that it lost $50 million and blah, blah, blah. They don't mention the fact that there's literally 25% less people going to movies now than before 2019.
It's crazy.
It was that close to Man of Steel, and 25% less people are going to the theaters. So I'm sorry, Snyder fans, but this Superman was a more successful film. So I'm curious to know why and how, I guess, you think the Snyderverse should return. Because my follow-up question as to why it should return is, how should it return? Should it supplant James Gunn's DCU, and should we revert back to the Snyderverse as a whole? Or what are your thoughts on that? So why should it return, and how should it return?
Well, I think both can exist, because you have the Batman, and that's not technically in the DCU universe. It's its own thing. I think Zack Snyder, maybe he's thinking in his mind that through Netflix, he could actually bring back his version. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think it's going to happen. Okay.
Sure. This is all hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Assuming he could get the financing for it, assuming studios would want to go for it, all of that, let's assume it's a go. Should it, and why is the ultimate question, right?
I think it should. I think there's a fan base out there that's really almost obsessed. I think obsessed with the Snyderverse. The interesting thing too is Superman as a character. If I scroll Twitter, man, I see the back and forth on the character of Superman alone. And I think more than almost any other just one specific superhero, not like the MCU, not just one superhero. And correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I see more Superman talk than any other superhero, including maybe even Spider-Man on X. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I think it's because Gunn's is the most recent in everyone's memory, but I do agree right now. Yes, that's the case.
But even Henry Cavill, I see Henry Cavill constantly trending. There are Henry Cavill fans, and they're just that's their version of Superman. They love that version of Superman so much. I love that version of Superman. I think though, if you had to narrow it down to one scene that encapsulates everything and really just kind of sends you on an emotional trip, I think it's the take flight. When he takes flight the first time, that sends you I could watch it 100 times and it gets me every time. The music, Hans Zimmer's score, and just seeing people always say this Superman doesn't smile. He's literally smiling through that entire sequence. Oh my God, I'm flying. I feel like a little kid right now. This is the calm before the storm, because it's one moment he can kind of set aside all his troubles that are coming his way, and he can just enjoy, I'm taking flight. It's a beautiful scene. And so yeah, I think it's selfish reasons on my part. I love that trilogy. It's a trilogy that I throw in, Snyder's trilogy. I probably throw it in at least once a year and watch it constantly. And it never wanes. There's movies I watch and I'm I'll get halfway through because it's the 17th time I've watched it. I'm okay, I'm done. Every single time I watch Man of Steel, I make it all the way to the end of the movie and I'm exhilarated at the end. That's my experience. That movie, but when that movie first came out, there were people like yourself, worse than yourself even, because I go on Blu-ray.com forums, and there were, I literally seen people say, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Fandom wouldn't do that, right? But they got so angry.
Yeah, one of the members of a really popular podcast right now Hat Guy and Andrew. I don't even know. They're the Escape podcast.
Yeah.
Hat Guy talks about Man of Steel is like his least favorite movie of all time because of how
Yeah.
wrong they got Superman. So like literally an example of what you're saying. And like as a Superman fan, as long as I have been, I understand, but I just, it's easy for me to compartmentalize and just go Elseworlds. You know, because I've been reading comics long enough, and some of my favorite Superman stories are Elseworld stories.
That's the question I was going to ask you. Like, where do you think Zack Snyder got this idea of, I want to make a Superman that's very grounded, very dark? Did he get that from a comic?
Let's be clear here. His Superman is not grounded by any stretch. I don't know exactly what you mean by grounded. I would say he's much more serious in tone. So I think that, that's what I mean. Of flippancy, right? His lack of sort of, silliness, which I got to be honest, again, it's a bit of a fundamental a misunderstanding of the character, because Superman does make little quips. He's always made little dad jokes. He's always had that. Superman should always be approachable by a child, no matter what he's in the middle of. And I think that's what James Gunn got so right. Even in the midst of massive danger, he was still someone that a kid could come up to and feel safe, for whatever reason. And it's something that occurred to me while you were talking that I want to get your opinion on, because I know that there's things about the Gunn portrayal that you don't like it's overly silly at times and stuff like that, which is very comic booky, yes, but it's not necessarily the most this is the first time, in my opinion, Gunn's Superman is the most comic book movie that we've gotten yet. And
I can agree with that.
I don't know if everyone's quite there yet, right? I think it's a little ahead of its time. I think everyone has kind of been massaged into it with the whole Marvel cinematic universe, it can be big spectacle, but they're still expecting a bit of, not necessarily the silliest stuff. I think that's why She-Hulk didn't quite land. No one realizes that that's actually what She-Hulk is like in the comics, and the fourth wall break is actually a thing and stuff like that. And I'm sidetracking myself now because I've got 30 years of comics in my head that want to jump out and talk. But
that was another question I was going to ask you, though. Do you think people that are so ingrained in Superman comics and they've read almost every Superman comic imaginable, do you think maybe they're primarily the ones that have the biggest issue with Man of Steel?
Yes, I would venture to say, yeah. I think there's a contingent of people that might have just been the Christopher Reeve fans but I don't think anyone that's just a Christopher Reeve fan would be nearly as fervent in their dislike of the Man of Steel version of Superman than comic book fans. I think you've nailed that. I do think it's largely, comic book fans, but I don't think that's, it's like, ultimately it's like saying the only people that don't like this new medicine on the market are all the doctors over there with all the experience. It's
one thing I can say though is I think I equally I guess you can like two different versions, because I think I equally like Christopher Reeve's version of Superman, especially in those first two movies.
Yes.
To Henry Cavill's Superman. Superman 2 was the very first movie I ever saw in the theater when I was 8. Yeah. Very first movie I ever saw was Superman 2 in the theater, 8 years old. And that was it. That was my guy. I want to be him. Sure. I want to be Christopher Reeve was my hero. And not just his version of Superman, but his Clark Kent. I don't think his Clark Kent to me is equal to Bill Bixby's version of Banner.
Okay.
I think you could never beat that. You can never replace that version. And I don't know if it's nostalgia because I was a little kid when both those versions of those characters came out. They're so locked into me. Henry Cavill, his Clark Kent, I don't know if I would want him to act like Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent just because they're so different. I can't imagine him acting like that. So I guess I like these.
I could. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not to cut
maybe,
you off,
but
A, I think he's a good enough actor too. But B, seeing what David Cornsweet did, and David Cornsweet is really close in appearance to Henry Cavill ultimately.
Yeah,
so
very.
I definitely could have. I feel that Henry Cavill was hamstrung by Zack Snyder's direction. and he's like, I want him to be this particular way. And so
Yeah.
Clark was never a separate entity in those movies. You know, he was
No.
still just Superman with glasses on. So, so yeah. God, I don't even know where to go back to now.
Well, you were asking which like if they do a Snyderverse, which direction would I like them to go?
The Snyderverse
And,
do. Sorry.
Yeah. For me, it's an easy answer because the cliffhanger that they left at the end of Justice League with Darkseid, that's where I would want them to go. Yeah, Darkseid, sorry. I would want them to complete that story.
It took me a long time to learn that myself, actually.
I mean, just the idea of Superman fighting Darkseid, it would be freaking awesome. It'd be amazing. I mean, because he heavily handles Steppenwolf like it's nobody's business.
Sure.
Like Steppenwolf wasn't even like a challenge for him.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's very little in the cosmos that is a challenge for a fully amped up, fully charged, Kal-El, which is part of why Darkseid is so fascinated by him. But yeah, I agree. I think it would be fun. And like, here's the thing. It's not. So basically my solution to all of this, just to kind of jump ahead, because again, I know you're limited time and I can circle back to some of these other questions.
I got another like 50 minutes if you want. So,
okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, so basically where I was going to land, that I think the best sort of, there's two options to go that I think would at least be a palatable solution for everyone involved.
Okay.
One, so we're in James Gunn's DCU now, right? He's doing his thing. We've got Superman done. Now we've got Man of Steel cooking. That's gonna have Brainiac and Superman teaming up with Lex Luthor, and it's gonna be, big and badass. And hopefully Gunn's gonna take the notes from the response to Superman and rein in certain things, but allow certain other things to continue, right? Because it's very Gunnish, but very appropriate for an actual comic book movie. God damn it! I let myself get off on these tangents.
I love you, Cecil.
Fuck, man. Fuck, it's man. The worst. This is why I took my ADHD meds way too early today.
Yeah. Well, while you're thinking of it, I was gonna say, this doesn't mean like I'm still excited for Man of Tomorrow. You got to go ahead,
right? Man of Steel, right? I said Man of Steel. It's Man of Tomorrow. Correct.
I'm excited for Man of Tomorrow. Like what was the Brainiac, right?
Brainiac, yeah.
Brainiac,
mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I think both can exist. I'll still be there day one, just because I don't really care for Superman 2025. I think the movie feels unfocused to me. Him fighting a kaiju or whatever you want to call that big monster. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh, that's happening. I didn't fit. It wasn't like when he's fighting Zod and the stakes are so high and this guy wants to take over our planet. And I'm like, I'm gripping my chair and I'm like, come on, Kal-El, don't let us down on this one. I felt nothing when he's fighting the kaiju, whatever that big one.
But let me ask you a question and be honest with me here.
Yes.
Take that moment where he stops in the middle of the kaiju fight to make sure that the people right behind him in the building are okay. If they had thrown that in to Man of Steel, at least at some point, tell me that wouldn't have humanized him a little bit more and made him a little more endearing. Right? Like those moments were completely missing from Man of Steel. And that's like, the squirrel might have been way over the top for some people, but it's also very Superman. So like, I feel like if
those moments, those moments, I liked those moments because that is who Superman is. My problem with the movie was I felt like Superman was a little sidelined at times. There was remember the one kid and he's holding like that pole with the flag, mm-hmm. and he's like Superman. It reminded me of that scene in Superman 2 where Zod and his two henchmen are obliterating Metropolis, and at that moment you want Superman to come so bad. Like I still remember my 8-year-old body sitting and I'm just like, come on, please, Superman, just come on, please. And then all of a sudden the newspaper flies away. Mm-hmm. And then you hear, dude, I almost leaped out of my chair. Mm-hmm. When that little kid is holding that flag, here comes Green Lantern, and
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
was a little
what? What are we
disappointed in that
doing?
too. I was a little disappointed in that too. I
Can
won't
you
lie.
imagine, dude, if freaking Soups would have freaking flew in above that flag, and that kid was like, yes, and he starts crying, and
Yeah.
they had an opportunity there. They really did.
Yeah, it should have been. Yeah, that they could have done that. I agree. That should have been
Yeah.
Superman that showed up there. That is something that bothers me about the movie. But overall, at least, like ultimately, they got the character right, which is what matters the most to me. But okay, so what I was gonna say is I remember where I was going, and my fix for everything is right. So we know James Gunn is doing his DCU thing. We know that the Batman, according to him, and assumedly the Batman 2 is considered Elseworld, right? He's saying
right.
There's an Elseworld section. So I would say let's just give that contingent what they want, and if a studio is willing to put up the money, just let Snyder finish his story as an Elseworld movie. It's no longer the main continuity. Just let him do the one movie. That's all everyone seems to want. Like the reason I asked, do you want just the trilogy finish, or do you want the Snyderverse as a whole, is because I feel like most people that talk about Snyder just want that Dark Side trilogy to finish, as opposed to wanting the Snyderverse as a whole to stick around. So if Gunn could do that, then that's one way to fix it. My other way to fix it is that if a studio is not willing to do that, then at least put the funds and let Zack Snyder write up a graphic novel version of that trilogy ender, and you get Alex Ross, who's one of the best artists of all time, to come. He has like photorealistic painting that he does. He could literally do the art. It would be epic in scope. He's one of the best paid artists for a reason. But it would be epic in scope, and all the characters would look like the characters from the movie. So at the very least, you get the completed version of his story in that form. I think those are the two ways that it could fix, and I think the graphic novel is obviously way more likely than a studio willing to kick out another $200 million for the end of a trilogy that only half of the audience
that's
wants.
the problem.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so that would be my way that they could, attempt to fix it. I think the graphic novel is actually doable, but I don't know why they haven't done it yet.
I think Snyder hasn't let me down in terms of his handling of DC, the movies that he's directed, those 3 movies. When somebody else directs those movies, and with Aquaman and Shazam and all that stuff, I could take it or leave it. But the man hasn't let me down yet. I liked even Batman v Superman Ultimate Cut. I'm a big fan of that movie. I know for some people it's kind of boring, and I get caught up in that story though. I really do, and the kind of the mystery that's going on with the bullet and everything. I like Snyder's world. That's what it is. He really did a good job, like it or not, of creating a world, creating almost a lore that is different than James Gunn. I like James Gunn. I'm not a James Gunn hater at all. I actually like most of his movies. I just didn't think he gave me the Superman movie that I wanted, but still, I'm not surprised. I was like, this is going to be a James Gunn Superman movie, and it was. So if Snyder wants to continue making DC movies, as long as they're at that quality, he can make 1, 2, 3 more movies if he wants, and we can ride that Elseworld while we have the Gunn movies, and we could all be happy and still fight on Twitter about it.
Yeah, I do think that even currently, even without Zack Snyder's involvement, I do believe that it's in James Gunn's plan to eventually have Henry Cavill come in as a alternate universe Superman, whether it be
that would be awesome.
The Kingdom Come Superman. I think that would be the way to go. Make him they tried that with Brandon Routh on the TV shows, and it looked good on the TV shows, but I think making Cavill the cinematic Kingdom Come Superman would be pretty peak, and so I do believe that that's in the plan. The Gunn doesn't know exactly when Crisis will happen, but when they Crisis, it has to be Crisis, right? There's no other thing that the whole DCU could build towards that would be anything like the Infinity Saga, except for Crisis. There's a couple things, but none of them would be as big as Crisis. And literally every massive universe shifting event in DC has been called Crisis. There's Crisis on Infinite Earths. There was Zero Hour, which is essentially Time Crisis. It was called A Crisis in Time. There was Infinite Crisis. There was Final Crisis. And then currently, DC KO is leading to another crisis, is my opinion. So I think that has to be the ultimate goal of the DCU for James Gunn, assuming that he can get all the way there. So but I didn't get the impression outside of the Darkseid story that Gunn had any sort of, or that Snyder had any sort of overarching plan for the DCU. Granted, he wasn't the one in charge of it, right? He was just in charge of Man of Steel and his movies, so it's not quite a similar comparison. But yeah, it's go ahead.
Well, they did kind of tease Deathstroke as well, and maybe Deathstroke would be in like the Batman movie or something like that. I think Snyder had a couple of ideas up his sleeve, and they were going to do a solo Batman movie. So
yeah,
I'd be curious to see, what they could have done with that. I was not against Affleck's Batman. I thought looks wise, he had a great look for Batman. A little stocky, but yeah, I mean, I liked him. I'm not the guy that says I think Batman should kill. But it doesn't if I guess it depends on the context and the situation. And if it's a situation where he has to kill somebody, then I'm cool with it. I do think maybe Snyder got a little bit too willy-nilly with it, though, with and you know what? If I could state a few things that I didn't like about Snyder's show, because I don't think it's perfect. It's like, I think some of the nightmare sequences didn't really go anywhere. Like when I'm watching Batman v Superman, even the Ultimate Cut, it feels like they're trying to catch up with Marvel, because Marvel had a plan and they were working towards the Avengers, and it felt like, oh my God, we need to get the Justice League together, instead of, I wish they could have maybe threw out a couple more solo movies before they eventually did the Justice League, So I guess I like that flavor of it. And that's why I said it on Twitter that, I would love the Snyderverse to come back. But if you even say that on Twitter, some people are going to take that the wrong way. You won't, but some people will.
Well, some people will make a whole damn stream about it.
Yeah. It's not, I got comments like, it's not coming back, move on. I'm like, whoa, I didn't kick your mother in the stomach. I just said I wouldn't mind having another Snyderverse movie. But man, but some people, it's like when you say Stu is alive. That, and I hate to, I didn't mean to switch gears here.
No. I experienced the same thing when I talked about it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I say Stu is alive, there's a section of the internet that goes crazy. Like they don't like that I said that. Like, how dare you? That TV is sacred. There must have been some sort of voodoo spell on that TV that got into people's heads. And out of all, this is horror, by the way. Suspension of disbelief is way out the window for just about everything.
Yeah.
But for some reason, a TV is like the all God Almighty of killing people. Like if a TV falls on your head, you're dead.
Yeah.
Especially
when it falls like 18 inches. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 18 inches. I'll even say this. I remember, and this is embarrassing, but I remember I was asleep. I was a teenager, and I'm a carpenter, but back then I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I installed my own shelf. But I didn't put it in a stud. And I had this you remember boom boxes back in the 80s?
Yeah.
I had this super heavy boom box. No freaking studs. And I wake up, that boom box fell probably 2 feet. Boom, on my head. Dude,
so you died,
I still
right?
feel it to this day. I died. Yeah, but luckily somebody, Ghostface, brought me back to life. So
nice.
I don't know.
Heck yeah. That's it. I agree that if I want Stu to be alive, I feel like it'd be, after what they did with Billy being a ghost, I feel like it would be dramatically uninteresting if they did something.
If you bring Billy back and you don't bring Stu back in,
no, but what I mean is if they bring them, if they're both ghostly or vision,
I don't want that,
or something like that. That'd be so stupid. Stu better be alive. If he's just relegated to flashbacks, I'll be bummed.
I'll be bummed.
What a waste.
Dude, can you imagine last act? It's all the shit's going down. Can you imagine Sydney standing there And then I genuinely think this will happen. People that don't want it to be Stu. Ghostface Mask comes out, it's Stu. Those people will probably be more excited than the people that want it to be Stu. They won't be able to control themselves, I think, if the story's good. If the story's like really good and it makes sense, and it's Stu, I'm serious, dude. I think you're gonna see freaking reels about it, TikTok videos, audience reactions. I think it'll be like freaking Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming through the portal. I think it'll be that big,
dude. I agree it could be, but I feel like the way it would be, it would be an absolute missed opportunity if they didn't play it out this way.
Scream needs it.
You have no. I mean, listen. You have one of the you have the other killer revealed, right? It's always two, except for when it's three.
Right.
Or one, I guess.
Or four, or
yeah,
five.
Yeah. So you reveal who the killer is, right? And then the way you reveal Stu is Sidney backs up into him, just like in the first one, and he goes, surprise.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Just, have it play out exactly the same as the first one, except, he's there and he's in his own Ghostface costume, because he wasn't right in the first one. He was just in his regular clothes at that point. But
there's quite a few scenarios that really can like induce the chill bumps. Like we were talking on the last Hit the Bricks. Can you imagine? And this kind of like surfaced as we were reacting to the trailer. And I think I said it. I was just like, can you imagine if Stu is holding Sydney's daughter? The mask is off. Yeah. It's emotional. She hasn't seen Stu in freaking 30 years. And he's holding her daughter, and he fucking kills her daughter right in front of her. That would just freaking blow everybody's mind.
Again, and then they could homage by having him, gut her in a chair, like through a window, like Drew Barrymore at the very beginning, seeing her boyfriend kind of thing.
Dude, if they don't bring him back, man, it's just.
Yeah, if he's not alive, I'll be very disappointed. But
it's gonna break my heart. It really is. It's like,
an extreme sidetrack from the
I know
from the topic overall. But all right, so here we go. Let me ask you another question here. So if the Snyderverse did come back, I think one of the nasty byproducts would be, wouldn't that just embolden all of the super toxic fans that have kept it toxic for this many years? Because like now they've finally got their way, and now they have fuel to comment and be shitty for even longer. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's a really nasty side effect of bringing the Snyderverse that could happen.
Well, yes, but to caveat that, isn't that fandom anyway these days? Like I see the vitriol with gun fans. Maybe not as much, but I do see some pretty, I see some back and forth that's kind of even both ways, with just as much anger towards each other. I think that's just like Marvel, DC, Halloween, Scream. It's just, you're never going to get away from it. Yeah. Like if Snyder doesn't make a movie, a DC movie, you're going to have it no matter what. You're going to keep seeing those hashtag restore the Snyderverse. If he does do it, then you're going to get other types of fighting. You're going to get there's people that hate the Snyderverse. I don't know if you hate it, but there's people that literally hate it. We talked about that at the beginning of the stream, and they seem to still want to constantly talk about how much they like. If somebody else brings up the Snyderverse or brings up Henry Cavill, I've seen it. People get upset. People love, but that's the thing too. I think people just love these characters. People love Superman. And there's people that hate Brandon Routh's Superman and Superman Returns, and that really rubs them the wrong way,
Well, I mean, there's a Stalker Superman is a bit of an odd choice.
It is. Yeah, he's out like hanging outside her window.
Yeah, watching with the X-ray vision. I was like, damn, bro, no, don't do that. But even in that movie, there are a couple of moments that I think are amazing. The bullet in the eye moment is amazing, and then one moment that I think is cool that they've never replicated is when something, I can't remember something is busted up, whether it's a building or a helicopter or some shit is busted up in the middle of the city, and all the debris is falling, and Superman just turns onto his back as he flies and just fires this wide beam of heat vision.
That's a badass
incinerates all the debris as it drops down. I was like, that's a great use of his powers. I was like, like no one's done that since either. Like, so there's a couple of moments of brilliance in that movie.
we talk, I talk about how I get emotional when I watch Superman movies when it's done the right way. Superman Returns actually had a couple of moments, even though I don't think the movie's great. I think there were a couple of really emotional moments, like when he's lifting that island, and it's I don't know, it just feels there's a chill bump inducing moment there when he's lifting that island because he knows he has to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, man, they were close with Superman Returns. He looks great as Superman. They really shined with a few of the displays of his power. He didn't fight anybody. I think that was one of the big things. I think people were like sick of Lex being the main bad. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you ever get tired of Lex?
Not when he's done right. I think Lex was almost entirely done right in this new movie.
I agree with that.
I think the only thing that was done wrong is he would never, ever, ever allow himself to shed a tear in front of Superman.
No.
He's way too proud to let that happen. Way too.
I agree.
But other than that, I think he was appropriately evil and cold and unconsiderate of everyone around him, and even the whole fuck Metropolis, I'll get another city. Like, that's very Lex Luthor. So I think they really nailed it, outside of the one crying moment. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I dug it.
Did you like the part where he's like, he's making the water, the city like split in half?
No.
I was just saying, why are we doing this?
That's Wile E. Coyote shit.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's Wile E. Coyote shit.
Yeah,
it's the perfect way of putting it.
It's too much for me. It's the whole having to cinch everything back together exactly as it was. Like
the pocket universe thing wasn't that was
very that was very convenient and stuff. I did like that they addressed the silliness of the city splitting with the post-credit scene where it's like it's put together but not quite right. I was like, okay, at least you're addressing how stupid this really is, after a fashion. But again, very comic book. So I was easy to forgive that. It's easier for me to forgive that than it is to forgive the lack of consideration that Superman has for literally anyone in the Man of Steel movies. But yeah. Now the last question I wanted to ask you before we maybe wrap this up, because quite frankly, my back teeth are floating because I didn't realize that I had to pee this much. But would the audience as a whole at this point even accept a return from Zack Snyder, considering the last time he really made a movie was made a DC movie was 2018, right? Zack Snyder's Justice League came out in 2021, but that was all basically post-production additions and maybe a couple of reshoots, but nothing really crazy. And since then, he's done Army of the Dead, and then the massive box office wins Rebel Moon 1 and 2. So
that's what scares me, man. The Rebel Moon is horrible.
I've not even gotten through the second one. Like, I've not convinced myself to sit down and watch it.
It was in my bottom 5 of the year. Rebel. Those movies are atrocious. So that does scare me. But what I will say is, remember in when the marketing and the ramp up for Batman v Superman, and you had that little teaser trailer of Batman turning on the bat signal, and then you see Superman fly up in the air, and the like, if you saw that in the theater, man, and all the YouTube reactions, everybody went nuts.
Oh yeah.
So I think if they can keep it under wraps, like if we don't get a freaking, John Campier report, and that's nothing against John Campier, that's just the internet. Henry Cavill is back. Henry Cavill is back as Superman. If they can somehow keep it under wraps and somehow we don't know, like they did with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, they did a good job of keeping that under wraps. If they were able to do that and nobody knew that Henry Cavill was coming back, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get this trailer out of nowhere, and we don't know what the trailer is. We're just like, what's going on here? It looks like some sort of superhero movie. And then in the sky, we see freaking Henry Cavill's Superman fly up in the air. I think the reaction, it's a perfect storm of things that have to happen for it. But in the right setting, I think the internet would go crazy if Henry Cavill is Superman again.
I think it would be more likely that if they're going to put the effort and money into bringing Henry Cavill back as Superman, they're going to make it, they would likely make, I don't know that they would make him the lead character, right? I don't think they would do a Kingdom Come Superman movie. They might, if he shows up in a Crisis movie and everyone flips their lid, then yeah, maybe they will do a Kingdom Come movie featuring him, which that would be fucking amazing. You know, I would absolutely love that.
I
As
would
a
love
massive fan of the Kingdom Come universe. I have Kingdom Come, I have The Kingdom, which was the little known follow-up, you know, number of series. They've returned to it as recently as a year and a half ago in the current Batman Superman World's Finest series. They returned to the Kingdom Come universe. Written by Mark Waid, the original writer of the original series. So it's still very much in play. And what I would think would be more likely as a result of that is you get Henry showing up at the very end of a movie like Kara did at the end of Superman. Kara being Superman for anyone or Supergirl, that if anyone doesn't realize. So she showed up at the very end of Superman. I feel like Cavill would be, they would basically take that scene from Deadpool and Wolverine when Elektra, Gambit, and Blade show up and just put it at the very end of the DC movie leading into Crisis, and they would bring in, you know, Henry Cavill and, you know, I'm sure Halle Berry as Catwoman, and
no, God, no.
But you know, it's something like that. I feel like it would be at the end of a big movie, to get those. Dude, some of those Spider-Man No Way Home theatrical reactions and the Avengers Endgame theatrical reactions, those
great.
are some of the best videos on YouTube. And I think DC needs one of those.
So
I feel like that would be a way for them to get that, you know?
Yeah, because DC seems to have the foothold in TV, you know, like freaking CW, you know, other Warner Brothers, of course. But it seems like Marvel, they're not as successful as DC is when it comes to TV.
Yeah.
So,
well, I like the Daredevil shows, but yeah, I mean, other than
me
that,
too.
It struggles a bit. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a fun discussion. I will see what happens. I think the most likely thing is we're gonna get, you know, a Cavill cameo down the line, and maybe a Kingdom Come Superman appearance down the line. I don't think it's possible for the Snyderverse to come back. I don't think he'll return. I think the best option would be the graphic novel, finish the Snyderverse, you know, finish the Dark Side story there, get Alex Ross to do it so all the characters look like the actual actors, and Bob's your uncle. You satisfy at least a partial segment of the fandom.
One last question for you.
Yeah.
Can you be won over by Zack Snyder?
If he returned to the DC world? Yeah, because again, I've got it slotted as a whole other part of the DCU. Technically right now actually I think they're back to Infinite, but for a long time they were down to 52 different Earths, 52 different universes in the DCU overall. And every single one was represented by a different Elseworld. The Batman as a Vampire was one of them. Kingdom Come was one of them. Earth 2 with Ultraman and Power Woman and Power Ring, you know, the evil Justice League, essentially. That was one of them. So all of the different Elseworlds they created, they were like, okay, that's Earth 43. That's Earth 37. That's, you know, and like, we're like, okay, like to me, as someone that loves all of those things, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Give them all a place in continuity. So I don't have a problem doing that in my mind. So if he came back, it would already be in the Snyderverse is already an Elseworld to me.
But I mean, do you think you would enjoy, because I know you're not the biggest fan of his movies. Do you think, is there something that Zack Snyder could do to make you say, okay, he won me over, I actually like this movie?
Yeah, well, no, I thought Army of the Dead was fun enough. I don't think he's ever really diving deep into character. He's never really done that. But you know, his visuals are amazing. I'm actually a huge fan of the Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. I feel like that's
the one I haven't seen yet.
Oh my God, watch it.
I know, I need to see it.
And believe it or not, we showed it to our kids like 2 months ago. That shit holds up. It still looks amazing, and it's got all of the signature Zack Snyder slow motion.
Nice.
It's really worth it. I would love to see your thoughts on it sometime.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Because as a Zack Snyder a lover, you would definitely appreciate it. I like the hell out of it. So and again, I know he knows how to shoot action, and his superhero action was fantastic. It's the characters that I was so like, you can't care about the action done by characters that you really dislike. So, you know, I had a hard time there, but the way he does it, the way he shoots his movies, I've always loved it. I loved it in 300. I loved it in Dawn of the Dead. Not the biggest Watchmen fan, but it was gorgeous to behold. You know, like
I love Watchmen.
Yeah, so like, but I've never liked that story that much. It's always been too dense, too political. I just don't get down with it.
It does get too political, for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, so yeah, I would appreciate it. But I think it needs to be cordoned off into its own section of the new DCU. Give it his, but fine. If it does well, great. Let him keep going. Let him keep doing that. And if it does well enough, there's no reason, because there will be people that support Gun Superman. There will be people that support this, and there will be people that support both. And if they do well enough, then eventually we'll get the team up that we got with No Way Home. You know, we'll get 2 Supermen in a movie. You know, they'll some threat will threaten both universes, and they'll have to team up to stop it. And how fun will that be when, you know, James Gunn and Zack Snyder can kiss on camera for everyone? You know what I mean?
Like Grace Randolph in The Predator.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, ultimately I wouldn't mind it at all. I think there's ways to please all the fans, but it's a fun discussion to have nonetheless. So thank you for joining me for it. I appreciate it.
Dude, by the way, I love that you loved Keeper. I freaking adore. I can't stop thinking about it. I love that movie to death. And I watched your review and I was like, Cecil gets it.
Dude, another one. I don't understand the dramatic hate for it. It's like, I'm not even the biggest Osgood Perkins fan. I did not like Longlegs. I really enjoyed The Monkey because of it caught me off guard. But this one, I thought the nightmare imagery was great. The long neck shit really got to me. Like, you know, Skibbity.
I've loved everything he's done so far. I've loved everything, and I went back and rewatched Black Coat's Daughter because I haven't seen it in a few years. Dude, that's his best movie. And like, that is so good.
I loved it when it first came. When I first watched it, it was part of a film festival, and I didn't fully understand it. So one of the guys from the show that watched it with us kind of explained a couple of things that we had missed, and as soon as he explained it, it all clicked, and I was like, oh my God, it's brilliant. Like, it takes
a couple watches to really appreciate it, I think. But
it's great.
Yeah, thanks for having me though, man.
Yeah, man, this was fun. This was fun. Keep throwing out those wacky tweets that I have no choice but to make a stream out of.
Just giving you content.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. All right, Lee. Well, thank you very much. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Drumdums if you're not yet. I really doubt that anyone here is not, but if you're not, the link is in the description box down below. Go ahead and make sure you subscribe to him. He's got tons of great content. He puts a lot more effort into his videos than I do, so you'll probably appreciate it. So yeah, thanks again for joining, Lee. I appreciate it, man.
Anytime, brother. Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much for watching, especially if you've watched all the way up to this point. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird. He's been Lee from Drumdums. And remember, guys, stay scared.
Stay classy, San Diego.
All right.